"I just used your card for snacks," my cousin's kid said. By morning, $6,300 was gone. My aunt dismissed it, saying kids will be kids. I didn't respond. That night, I quietly froze every card linked to their accounts. At dawn, my cousin opened her banking app and shouted, and 10 minutes later, I got a call from. I barely kept my emotions in check when I saw it. $6,300, gone, nearly all the money I had left, and spent on absolute nonsense. I didn't cry or yell. I just stared at my laptop screen, feeling like my chest was caving in. That money was meant to get me through the month. I was already scraping by, supporting 5 people on one paycheck, myself, my daughter, and my cousin's entire family. I scrolled through the charges. Designer handbags, truly. Sneakers that cost more than my rent back in college. High-end hair tools, obscure skincare brands, and even a deposit for a wellness retreat that made me laugh out loud. Not from humor, but from sheer absurdity. My niece, 18, jobless, had used my saved card details for a luxury shopping spree. She had no money of her own. Never had. And it wasn't a mistake. I knew because of what she said earlier that evening. I got home past 8 after a grueling day of back-to-back meetings. Exhausted, hungry, with emails still to answer, I saw her lounging on the couch in sweatpants, scrolling her phone like she had no worries. I asked about her day. She casually mentioned using my card for snacks and a few things since it was saved on the shopping account. I froze mid-step, asked her to clarify. She shrugged, acting like it was nothing. "I just used your card for snacks," she said. "No big deal." I didn't argue. I didn't say a word. I went to my room, opened my laptop, and when I saw the balance, I couldn't breathe. That card wasn't for them. It was for emergencies. But slowly, because of them, emergencies became weekly. Groceries, school supplies for my kid, gas for their car, the small things added up. But this was a full-on assault on my savings, and she said it like she'd borrowed a pen. They'd been living with me for 6 months. It was supposed to be 2 weeks. My cousin said they just needed to get back on their feet. Her partner lost his job. She hadn't worked in years. Rent was too high. Their credit was shot. I believed them. I let them move in. I fed them, paid for them, even let my daughter share my room so their daughter could have her own space. Every week, a new excuse. Every week, I told myself it was temporary. But it wasn't temporary. It was convenient for them. Around midnight, I knocked on their door. My cousin answered, looking sleepy and irritated. I told her what happened. Her daughter spent over $6,000. She blinked like it didn't sink in, then she said it. "Kids will be kids." That's when something broke inside me, not loudly, quietly, deeply. I said nothing more. I went back to my room, shut the door, and sat in silence. By the early hours, I started freezing every card they'd ever used or accessed. Every sub-account, every auto-login. I even contacted retailers to reverse or cancel pending purchases. One had already shipped, but I knew the return window was 14 days. I had time. By dawn, I was making coffee when I heard a shout. Not a yell, a shout. It came from their room. 10 minutes later, my phone rang, my cousin's partner. His voice was instantly hostile, demanding to know why their cards weren't working, why their apps were locked, why their food delivery orders failed. I listened to his entire tirade without speaking. Then I hung up. I felt no pity. No guilt. I felt awake, because this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was what happens when you let people treat your boundaries as optional. They crossed a line, and they wouldn't like what came next. By sunrise, the house went from tense silence to chaos. My cousin stormed through the halls like she'd been betrayed, slamming drawers and muttering loud rhetorical questions about how her daughter could do this to them. Her partner was outside, pacing, vaping, and arguing on speakerphone about how I'd humiliated them. Meanwhile, their daughter, the one who drained my account, sat in the living room, clutching her phone like a lifeline, crying over the handbags and essentials being refunded or marked for return. And there I was at the kitchen table, sipping coffee like it was my only anchor to reality. None of them dared confront me at first. My cousin passed by me several times, waiting for me to speak. I didn't. I wanted them to feel the silence. I wanted them to stew in the mess they made, not me. Around noon, my cousin finally broke the stalemate. She said we needed a mature family discussion. I agreed, clinging to the faint hope they'd see how far they'd gone. We sat in the living room, me on one side, them on the other, like a negotiation. My cousin started with, "We feel your reaction was a bit extreme." Then the usual, I embarrassed them. I created instability. I should have talked to them before cutting off their accounts. As if $6,300 vanishing without a heads-up was reasonable. Her partner chimed in, saying I made them feel unwelcome and helpless. He actually said I damaged the trust between us. Then their daughter, who spent my money like she was a brand ambassador, said she was under pressure, and that stability was vital for her growth at her age. She claimed shopping gave her control, even briefly. I sat there wondering if they'd all lost their minds. They weren't ashamed. They were mad at me. I calmly told them I had less than $300 left, that I was behind on 2 utility bills, that I'd given up nearly every comfort to keep them from sleeping in their car, that I hadn't had a proper weekend off in over 4 months from extra shifts, that my daughter gave up her room, her routines, her peace for people who couldn't even say thank you. And now they were lecturing me about stability. I said I didn't want the money back. I meant it. Not because I forgave them, but because I was done. Done expecting responsibility from people who acted like the world owed them. Done excusing adults who saw kindness as weakness. My cousin started crying. Her partner looked down. Their daughter said nothing, just left for her room. The next morning I left early, got in my car and drove. No destination, just needed to be away. I grabbed a coffee from a gas station and parked in a store lot, watching people go about their day. I sat there for over an hour. When I got back, there was an envelope on the kitchen counter with my name in hurried handwriting. Inside, a note: "We're sorry, we'll fix it." No money, no plan, no next steps, just 7 words on paper. That's when it hit me. They weren't going to fix anything. In their minds, they hadn't broken anything, and that meant I had to change everything. The envelope sat on the counter for 2 days before I touched it again. I read the note once and left it there. "We're sorry, we'll fix it." No explanation, no money, no plan, just a vague promise like that could erase the fact that they drained my account and hadn't lifted a finger to make it right. They tiptoed around me after that, thinking they were being considerate. Quiet mornings, dishes done, shoes off at the door. But it felt empty, like they were waiting for my anger to fade, as if they'd weathered storms before, and this was no different. But this was different. I was watching them now, really watching. Their daughter still woke up past 10, sprawled on the couch, scrolling endlessly and shopping with whatever money she had from who knows where. Still no job, still no effort. She asked one afternoon if I'd help rebuild her shopping cart, because everything got refunded. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. My cousin tried harder to seem productive. She mentioned applying to a few jobs but couldn't recall where. Talked about remote work but spent most of her time rewatching shows on her laptop. Her partner hid in the garage, claiming to job hunt while vaping and watching videos. It was surreal, like I was in a simulation where only I saw the wreckage. So one night after work, I stayed up late at the dining table and made a plan. I printed job listings from local websites. Entry-level jobs, nothing fancy, just a way to get them started. I sorted them by skill level, noted which ones suited each of them. I even wrote down bus routes for jobs they could reach without my car. The next day, I called a house meeting, asked for 15 minutes of their time. They sat down, looking more annoyed than curious. I said I wasn't here to punish anyone, that I knew things were tough and I understood their pressure. But I couldn't support 5 people on one salary anymore. I said I'd found job opportunities they could apply for that week, that if they acted now, we could move forward, together. My cousin nodded but avoided my eyes. Her partner leaned back and said he appreciated the effort, but it's not that simple. That there were other factors I wasn't considering. I asked what those were. He didn't answer. Then came the worst part. Their daughter rolled her eyes, picked up the job listings, glanced at them like they were a joke, then stood up and tossed them in the trash. "I'm not working some fast food job like I'm 16, she said. "I'm not desperate." I looked at her, then at my cousin. Nothing. No one corrected her. No one apologized. No one pulled her aside later. It was just normal to them. I went to bed without another word. But that night in the dark, I realized the person I'd become over the last 6 months. The one who kept giving, sacrificing, stretching herself thin, had to vanish. Because they weren't just taking money. They were taking pieces of me. And I had one move left. I barely slept, too aware of how the house had turned upside down. It wasn't just money anymore. It was the disrespect. The entitlement. The way they saw me as an obstacle for trying to help them stand on their own. I kept hearing their daughter's words. "I'm not desperate." After tossing the job listings in the trash like they were garbage. By morning, I knew what to do. I called into work and took a personal day. Then I gathered receipts. Return windows were closing, and I wasn't letting that money slip away. Most of the big-ticket items their daughter ordered were unopened. Still in boxes, stacked in her room like prizes. I didn't ask permission. I packed them into my car's trunk. She didn't notice. She was outside on a video call, laughing. I heard her say, "She's still mad about the card thing," then laugh like I was some uptight fool. I drove to a boutique downtown and returned the handbag first. They asked if I was the original buyer. I said yes. No questions, refund processed. $11.99 back. Then a cosmetics store, a sneaker shop, and a small online boutique with a physical location. 5 hours of driving, returning every item I could. By day's end, I'd recovered nearly $4,500. I came home exhausted but calmer than I'd felt in weeks. I was pouring water in the kitchen when their daughter noticed. She stormed in, demanding to know where her stuff was. I told her I returned it. It was never hers to begin with. She started screaming, not yelling, screaming. Called me a thief, jealous, said I was ruining her life. Then she did something I didn't expect. She grabbed my coffee mug and threw it at the wall. The crash was so loud my daughter ran out of her room. My cousin came in asking what was happening. Their daughter pointed at me, shouting that I'd stolen from her, that I'd violated her privacy, that she'd call the police. I looked her in the eye and said, "Go ahead." That silenced her. Then, for the first time since this started, I turned to my cousin and said what I'd held back. I told her daughter had become someone I didn't recognize, that I'd tried everything, fed them, housed them, protected them, and got gaslighting, disrespect, and financial ruin in return. I said if she wouldn't parent her child, she'd failed as a mother and as my cousin. Her partner stood silently in the doorway. He said nothing, and I wasn't done. I told them they had 14 days to leave my house. That was it. No more chances, no more warnings. They'd figure it out just like I had for the last decade. I said I'd provide resources if they needed them, but I was done carrying them. My cousin cried, saying it wasn't fair, they weren't ready. Then I dropped the final piece. I'd called a friend who owns a restaurant. They had 3 openings. Dishwasher, host, server. I said the friend agreed to hire all 3 if they showed up Monday morning. Their daughter laughed in disbelief. My cousin looked horrified. They thought I was joking. I wasn't. None of them responded that night. But the next morning, the partner, the same man who yelled at me days ago, asked what time the shift started. No, thank you, but at least he was scared enough to move. Monday morning, the house was silent at 7 a.m. No scrolling, no video calls, no cereal bowls left out. Just quiet. I saw him leave in their car. No fanfare, no speeches, just gone. An hour later, my cousin shuffled into the kitchen, poured coffee, and mumbled about trying the job. I nodded. I didn't say I was surprised. I didn't tell her the friend had called earlier saying if they didn't show, the offer was gone for good. At noon, their daughter emerged, silent, avoided my eyes. Stood by the counter waiting for the microwave, then quietly asked if the rest of her orders were being returned too. I said yes, sunglasses, a face serum, a speaker. Return window was open and we were returning them. She muttered it was humiliating. I agreed. We went to the mall together, not for bonding, but because she was an adult and some returns needed ID verification. I let her handle it. I watched her face when the cashier asked, "Do you have the original payment method?" And she had to say, it was my aunt's card. Item by item, refunds processed. Nearly $6,000 recovered. Not all of it, some purchases were final sale, but enough. I told her to keep the receipts. I wasn't covering for her if anything came back on my statement. In the car, she sat fuming, arms crossed. She said I didn't understand what it's like to feel like you have nothing. That shopping gave her control, a break from stress. I didn't argue, but I asked what she thought my life looked like. Did she think I got here by shopping my way out of stress? Did she know I hadn't bought new shoes in over a year because I was keeping 5 people afloat? She didn't answer, just stared out the window. That night I went to my room, shut the door, and let myself feel everything. The exhaustion, the frustration, the crushing disappointment, but also clarity. I'd tried. I gave them everything, shelter, food, countless chances. I handed them jobs. I recovered the stolen money. I stayed calm when I wanted to scream. I offered a way out, and they barely took it. Her father came home from his shift and went to bed. My cousin followed, saying she couldn't handle the job's pressure. Their daughter said the restaurant wasn't her vibe, and she'd look for something more her personality. So I made one final decision. I typed a letter, short. Just a notice they had 10 days left. The spare key would be deactivated. I'd arranged temporary storage if they needed it, but after that. Done, I left the letter on the kitchen table. In the morning, it was untouched. They said nothing. 10 days passed. On the deadline, I woke at 6 a.m. expecting a fight or a guilt trip. But their room was empty. Their stuff was gone. The only signs they'd been there were a half-eaten cereal box and cheap flip-flops by the door. They left without goodbye. I didn't call, I didn't text. I didn't need to know their plans. I'd done more than enough. For 6 months, I lived their struggle like it was mine, while they acted like I owed them my stability, my patience, my peace. I sacrificed everything, money, time, my daughter's comfort, to keep them afloat. I thought giving more would change them. I was wrong. People don't change because you make life easier. They change when they decide